Hello and welcome back to the Daily Run with Za, where it's not just about the run, it's about how the run sustains us in life. Today I am here with Mark Washburne, an active run streaker and also the current president of the International Run Streak Association. So Mark has, I think he joined on at 2011, is that right?
I became the manager, the president in 2011.
Okay. Yep, and then as soon as he became the president, it went from the United States Running Streak Association to the Streak Runners International, established in 2012, right?
Well, we still use the United States. What happened in 2011, we were just accepting people from the United States. So I asked our board in 2012 early whether we wanted to expand it to the world, and they said sure. So they came up with Streak Runners International as our name.
Okay, nice. Well, thanks for joining us, Mark, and I'm excited to have you and kind of complete the interview that we did with John Strumsky on Monday and how him and Don kind of formulated the Run Streak Association, and now, having you taking over and seeing what sort of changes happened over the years and how many more people were inspired and anything else that you want to add. But if you want to start with a little bit of background about yourself and your own run streak, we'll be excited to hear about that.
Well, yeah, thanks, Eliza. I started in the last day of the 1980s, December 31st, 1989. And I didn't even really intend it to be a streak until I was like 2 or 3 weeks into it. What happened is at the time, I'm a college professor now, but at the time I was going for training to be a stockbroker, and they sent us to Detroit for, I think, a 2 or 3 week session. And so I organized everybody to run, and when I came back, I was like, oh, I've gone 3 weeks in a row. I wonder how long I've ever gone in a row. So I noticed that when I was training for my first marathon, the New Jersey Waterfront Marathon, I had gone 50 days. So I was like, okay, let's see if I can hit 50 days. And today it's 11,400 and I lost the number, 445.
Okay.
11,345, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Well, not bad. So do you keep, and how do you do record keeping? When we're talking with John on Monday, we're talking about how streak runners tend to be very tedious record keepers. What's your method of madness?
Well, it started with 1984 for Christmas. My boss, she knew I was a runner, so she gave me the Jim Fix logbook. I think Jim Fix he's the guy who wrote the book about running that got a lot of people interested in it. And I think he died of a heart attack maybe that year. So I got the Jim Fix logbook, and it started in 1985, and I've pretty much, other than 1 year, I've been using his logbook, or now it's put out by somebody else, but it's the same logbook. So I record all my runs, I add them up at the end of the year, and how many races I've done and at the end of the year, and I carry it forward. So I know at the end of last year, I have covered 58,776 lifetime miles, and I have run 868 races,
wow.
Including 2 virtual races. Those are my first 2 virtual races this year.
And what did you think about the virtual races? What distance were those?
Well, I did the Boston Marathon.
Okay.
For me, I had done the last 15 Boston Marathons. Not that I'm a really good runner. It's just I'm old, so it's easier to get in nowadays.
Yeah.
So I've done the last 15. I usually just squeak in there, but somehow I keep on going. And so this year I did the Boston Virtual Marathon from my home. So, and then I did a 5K race. I wasn't really crazy about the virtual races. I really need people there to kind of keep me going. So I'm looking forward to racing, getting started again.
Yeah, and I think that's opposite for me, because I ran Boston in 2009, and it was like crowd screaming the entire way, 26.2 miles, and I'm like,
yes,
that doesn't motivate me. I ran a race in Washington State, and I was basically alone the entire time. And I ran my fastest 3:17 and rolling hills, and nobody to run off of. And I'm like, I don't know. That's a different breed, I guess. But
well, the loneliness of the long distance runner, you fit that description. Sometimes those big races, it's hard to get going in. So, I think there's probably a middle point where you don't want it to be as big as I've done New York, Chicago, Boston, DC. And so those races, you don't really get your best times out of it just because of the crowds.
You're trying to get through people elbow to elbow.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think and we met in 1200. We met in Florida, I believe December 2019, running with the Raven. Yep, and I remember that was a big. Oh, that was on the 31st, I believe.
Well, this year is the 31st, but it was my 30th anniversary.
30. So oh, right. Okay.
Raven is 15 years ahead of me.
Okay.
Minus a day. So I started on the 31st. He started on January 1st. Mm-hmm. So I am of the school that you've completed 1 year on the day before what would seem like be your anniversary.
Yep.
So I celebrated on the 30th, and he follows that same school where you celebrate on the 31st.
Yeah. So, and I believe you had a minimum. What's your minimum?
Yeah, my minimum's 3 miles a day.
Okay. And is that what you usually, for the most part, run? Or what's...
Lately, the last dozen years, I've hit over 2,000 miles a year. Mm-hmm. So in order to do that, I think you have to average 5.5 miles a day.
Okay.
So I do a lot of 3 miles, especially like if I'm teaching, I will, and I've got early morning class, I'll just do the 3 miles. If I run with a group on Saturdays, we usually do 8 miles. And then if I'm training for a marathon, I can do up to 20 miles for some of those runs.
Mm-hmm. And what has been your hardest time to run through? So this is just hit 31 years this past December?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So within 31 years, I'm sure, you've encountered a lot. Is there anything big?
Well, the one that gets a lot of press is I did the Richmond Marathon in 2015, and I got a flu shot that week, and I just wasn't right, and so at the end of it, Richmond's going downhill, and I either tripped or my wife thinks I fainted because I didn't try to break my fall. So I broke my nose, and I had a concussion. I don't remember falling. I don't remember being in the medical tent. I don't remember being in the ambulance. I don't remember being in the emergency room. The next thing I remember is like 6 o'clock at night, and they kept me overnight. And the doctors are like, "Well, this is it. You can't run." They knew because I had a streak shirt on that I was going to run, and they're like, "No, you're not." So they released me at 3 o'clock, and by 3:30, I was out there getting in my 3 miles.
Nice.
It was kind of it was at the end of the marathon. Actually, I ended up qualifying for Boston, so I must have been really close to the finish. My friends who were there said that people, when I got up, my face was bloody. People were cheering. There's a guy from Runner's World, Bart Yasso, and I saw him at the Chicago Marathon. And I introduced myself as the head of the Running Streak Association. He goes, "I know you. You're the guy that fell at Richmond." Because he was there, and it actually made the Richmond News. Runner's World did a story on it, so that was my big moment of being close. But I got through it, so that was important.
And then, so far as injuries throughout the 31 years, I'm sure there's...
Well, I'm sure you are like me. I've had all of them.
Yeah.
And everything. You just... for me, I think a lot of times it's that first mile. When you start off, something's bothering you, and so most people would just turn around, but since we have streaks, whether it's a mile or, in my case, 3 miles, we just kind of keep on going. So, I've had plantar fasciitis, Achilles problems, calf problems, anywhere on the leg problems through the years.
Yeah. And I think it's, the same thing, you get out there, you start running, and, it's kind of like the mind telling you, it's basically controlling the mind and just letting it go and kind of laughing at it like, oh, it's too cold. Your ankle's hurting, your knee's hurting, you didn't bundle up right. All these excuses. Yes. And it's kind of you have to get through that first mile before your mind finally gives up. And it's like, okay, I guess you're out here. I'm just going to quiet down and let you get through.
And I'm sure you've experienced this, but usually after the first mile, the pain kind of goes away. If it doesn't, then you're really seriously injured. Yeah. But in a lot of cases, it's, once you're out there and you make your commitment, you go through it and you're fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there have been times, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, when you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this? But somehow you do.
Yeah. And there's definitely, it takes that commitment to the streak. A lot of days we wake up and we run. That's just what we do. But it's the times that we're injured where we're like, like one time I think I had a fractured rib or something, and I was running. I felt like if someone saw an animal running, they'd shoot it out of its pain because it was horrible. And everyone, not like anyone was watching me, but I'm thinking, oh great, if people see me, like this is, I don't really care, but this is just not good right now. And I just hobbled through a few miles, and but then it just made me more grateful for those times where I'm able to run pain-free and healthy.
Yeah.
But
I like the fact that you use the C word, the committed word, because normally when I'm being interviewed, because I'm part of this group and I manage the group, the one question I get almost every interview is, are you obsessed? Mm-hmm. Are your streak runners obsessed? And I usually say, no, we're just committed, we're dedicated. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that you used that term as opposed to saying we're obsessed.
Yeah.
Because we're not.
And that actually,
we're just dedicated.
Yeah, that goes back to actually my college essay I wrote when I was only a year into the streak. And I was reading it to my dad, and I said addicted to running. And he did not like that word addicted, but he changed it to committed. And like ever since then, it's like, because addicted has that definitely negative connotation. I mean, I might have an addictive personality. If I really want to know something, I go all in and research and know everything about it, addiction wise.
Right.
But same with obsessed. And I was talking with John Strumsky on Monday, and he said the same thing. You can be obsessed about something, but it can be a positive obsession, instead of being negatively a negative obsession. So same, I think dedicated and committed, definitely disciplined. We have all these kind of positive attributes that can come from.
Absolutely.
It doesn't, in some ways it doesn't have to be a daily run. It can be any sort of daily ritual that I'm sure these positive attributes can come. So yeah, I think it's, especially you have a whole list of people that are running every day. It's definitely a quirky bunch, but I think, still it's getting out there and committing to something positive every single day, like committing to yourself, taking that time to run, taking the time to get outside and appreciate life, essentially.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you're not a treadmill person. You're an outdoor person.
Yeah, and I gave up the treadmill. It was actually in 2009 because after my first marathon, I suffered from IT band injury. Ooh. Yeah, and I had to hold my IT band in place while I was running for a few months. And and that was during the winter time. So I did a lot of treadmill running to try to keep my muscles warm. And April was the Boston Marathon. So I had to keep training. And, once it was spring and I was healthy again, I just decided, it's okay if people run on the treadmill, but for me, I just feel like it's just a little cheating in some ways. I feel like for me, I make things a little harder on myself and I want to brave the elements, or I've had a few indoor just like running around inside especially when I was pregnant and it was icy. But other than that, I haven't ran on the treadmill since 2009.
Wow. Well, that's good. I can't remember 2009. Was that the bad weather Boston Marathon, or you had pretty nice weather that year?
I mean, it wasn't horrible. I remember it was a little bit rainy, 40 degrees, not too windy. So
it was not the nor'easter. I remember doing that. That might have been the year before, or year after, something like that. So
yeah, maybe
there's been some challenging Boston marathons.
Yeah, I'm sure, and especially since it's straight, and that doesn't help. You don't have you're only running one direction, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
You hope the wind's at your back.
Yep.
And if it is, then it's a good year. But
yeah,
I've run through nor'easters and rainstorms and all kinds. I had the flu one year trying to get through it. So
yeah, I'm sure
it has its challenges.
So that's one of your streaks, is the Boston every year, right? For the past 13?
Yeah, I've done it 16 years. I'm nowhere near the longest Boston streak. I think the guy is over 50 years right now. They actually have a club called the Quarter Century Club, which we have some of our streakers as part of, but you have to do 25 years in a row of Boston in order to get into it.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'll be in my 70s if I do it, so I don't think I'm going to make it, but, it's a goal to have out there. Nice.
Mm-hmm. So are there any other, you have the minimum 3 miles, anything else to your streak that you tend, as far as ritual-wise, that you tend to do?
You mean like do workouts and stuff like that? I pretty much, to me, that's a lot doing the 3 miles. So I try to simplify, not to have too many things. I usually do push-ups and sit-ups and stretching before running, but not every run. So, but I've always done 3 miles, always been able to get out there. And someday I think, well, maybe I'll go down to a mile, but it hasn't happened yet. So as long as I can keep on doing it, I'm going to do it.
And the option's always there. So I never thought I would I don't think I've actually never ran just 1 mile, because Ray was born 3 p.m. on Tuesday. I had to run, that day still. So I ran about 8 p.m. I still ran like 17 minutes, which I was like, this is definitely, a mile, over a mile, maybe a mile and a half. So
you are, Eliza, you are an amazing athlete. As before we did this interview, I was saying that I think you were the first to actually run through pregnancy, or at least the first I remember. We've had a couple since then, but it's still such an amazing accomplishment to be able to do that. So you're an amazing athlete.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I think it was not all fueled, but a lot of it was fueled by the fact people told me I couldn't do that. So if somebody tells me I can't do something, I'm going to do it and make it possible.
That is me too. Yeah. Don't tell me I can't do something.
Yeah.
You want to do it even more. So, we've had our critics through the years like, oh, you should be running every day. But for me, I just think it's really the health benefits have outweighed it. As I said, I'm not really that great of an athlete, but I've been able to get in Boston for the last 16 years, and I don't think I would have done it had I not been as consistent with my training, with my running.
Yeah.
So.
And it is about that consistency, too. I mean, even if it's just the monotonous run every day, might be mundane for some people. It's the consistency and that, once again, that commitment of doing it every single day that I think definitely adds up.
That is true. Although I don't like the word monotonous. It reminds me, there's a author for Runner's World, Dr. Joyce Sheehan. He's from my home state of New Jersey. Anyway, he said running is the type of sport that you have to be with your innermost thoughts for a half hour every day. So he said, if that's the issue, that is not the sport that's the problem.
Yeah.
So I look forward to getting out there, and I don't have music on. I just with my thoughts, and it's always something that keeps me going that I enjoy doing.
Yeah, I think exactly. And after talking with a lot of streakers, it's never really about the run. It's about connecting with ourselves every day. And, sometimes we have that space that we get from a run where we can maybe react better or decide to, make a better decision or, react in a more positive way instead of impulsively doing something. So it's...
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's jump into the streak registry. So just to recap, talking to John Strumsky on Monday. So the 1994 was the first running streak list by George Hancock we kind of talked about. And there was 51 runners. And to this day, you gave me a number. And then the streak registry wasn't formulated until let's see, the year 2000. Year 2000. Yeah. Okay.
Although he didn't have the first list, or at least I didn't get the first list until April. He had the first newsletter in April of 2001.
Okay.
So I know that as soon as I got it, I was like, this is great. So I sent in my money, and they had 12 people that had signed, that were part of the group, and so I'm unlucky number 13 nice. Membership in the group. We did, so George came out with that list. I didn't make the original list, although my streak had started. But somewhere along the way, I learned about George Hancock, so I did get on some of his later lists. I don't know if John Strumsky told you this, but George had an agreement with the guy from Ultra Marathon World. His name is David Bilecki, and so he did this Ultra Marathon website, and so we streakers, our list, George's list was put on that, which kind of shows you what they thought of us at the time. We were, okay, we're kind of out there, so we're going to put you with the crazy people that run more than a marathon. So we were on that, and then George and John got together and decided to, I guess John approached George about forming the United States Running Streak Association, and so he did. And so John was the president until 2011. And I'm sure he told you this, but his streak had ended, and he was looking to retire, move out. So he asked who wanted to take it over. And so it came down between me and a guy from Seattle, Washington. And I really think I got the job because I was willing to drive to Maryland to pick up the files, living in New Jersey. So they made me, they put me in charge. And, it's kind of a small little group, but it just really has taken off. We're close to 4,000 streaks. That includes retired and active streaks. And we're now in, when I took over, we were just in the United States. And so in 2012, I asked our board whether we wanted to expand and take on international runners. It was really slow to get started at first, but now we have 52 countries. We have streak runners from 52 countries that are part of our group. And it's growing. It keeps on growing. Every day it seems like I get more and more streaks come in.
So you want to tell a little bit about the definition of a streak and how, if somebody completes these requirements, how they go about becoming part of the association?
Well, our requirement is you have to do a mile a day. I apologize, I don't know the exact meters, although we have it on our website, how many meters that is, because obviously we have people outside the country. So you have to do a mile a day, and once you hit a year, then you can send in your membership, and we, put you on the list. The only people I really challenge for the list is, for example, I just got one guy whose streak was over 45 years, and he's just submitting it for the first time. So I was like, boy, people are going to be a little upset putting you on here. So we have to make sure we verify it. So he sent me all kinds of documentation. In fact, he went through his logbook, and I thought he would just use his camera so he could just show me that he had it, but he ended up scanning.
Oh, wow.
Logbook. Luckily, he had like 50 50 days on a page.
Yeah.
He ended up sending me that, and he did have some articles. I also looked for, are there any articles from the past, and he did have that. So we did put him on. Others, however, if they didn't keep track of their streak, if they didn't use the logbook, and if their streak goes back to, say, the 20th century, the 1900s, usually we're challenged. So I have a few that I do hold up, but normally we don't. As long as, if it's a new streak, we don't really challenge it unless, again, it's going to be in our top 100 streaks out there.
Okay. Oh, great. Hold on. That was my, stop. That was Ray, if anybody heard that. My son.
Ray.
Okay. Yeah, so, and then I believe the rules changed. It used to be a continuous mile. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, John had put that in, and it makes sense. However, I ran into a problem trying to enforce it. It might have been 2015. Someone said, okay, if I tie my shoes, do I have to start the mile all over again? And so there was literally 250 comments from people, and some of them were not very nice comments.
Yeah.
People are putting little puppies in there to kind of calm people down. So it became, for me, and I ended up writing a couple pages about what the streak really meant, especially to the older people. I'm sure you started before there were Garmin watches. I started before there were Garmin watches. So, if we stopped to, say, tie our shoes, or if you lived in a city, to look both ways before you crossed the street, we wouldn't think to start all over again, but people were interpreting that. Some of the newer people, they would be like, okay, we have to start exactly all over again. So I took that wording out of the definition.
Okay.
Because it became more of a problem. Now, we still want people to run a mile a day. I get a lot of walkers who said, well, I walk faster than a lot of people can run. Can we be put on the list? And I'm like, well, this is the Running Streak Association, so we keep track of runners, not walkers.
And I guess I'm a literal thinker, because for me, I've maintained that consistent mile. There's only, I believe, 3 times in my run streak where for example, one time I actually literally sprained my ankle at 7 minutes in, which I wasn't yet to a mile. So it was a pretty bad sprain. And so I had that was when I was coaching a cross country team. And of course they wanted to run in the woods, not to blame it on them, but they wanted to run in the woods on a very wet, rainy day. So I rolled my ankle on a rock and had to start my streak over. And another time I fell, before a mile, not a bad fall, but I was like, well, start over. And even, if a red light would stop me, I'd run like in circles. And in like physics, they call it the positive X direction. Like you always have to be running forward. So I'd always keep that in mind. I'm not going to be stopping, or when I turn around in a way I'm still running forward, instead of running, basically you're running backwards. If you'd stop and turn, I'd do a little circle, or, sometimes even stoplights change my route completely. And I'm like, well, I'm not stopping here. I guess I'm turning, or so.
Well, I think a lot of people, they would run, they would do the mile, but it became too much of an issue. We tried to simplify things. I'm guessing you live more in a rural area as opposed to a city, but people stopping, looking, it just became more of an issue. So I took it out. It really, I think one person said, okay, I was taken off the list because of this, and so we put her back on the list. But for the most part, it didn't really impact people.
Yeah.
Most people, whether, if they thought that they should do a continuous mile, they've done a continuous mile. So it hasn't been, as far as I'm, since I'm the person that has to enforce this, it hasn't been a big issue. But we were, getting safety concerns, like people running into the streets, thinking that they couldn't just stop at a stop sign, So I just said, well, why don't we just make it a mile? So that's what we did.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm looking through any notable happenings from, besides making this association international so it's been about 10 years you've been president. I just wanted you to let you know that John Strumsky had great things to say about you, and he knows that, you're handing the association over to you has just made it what it is today. So he's very grateful.
He's kind, but there would be no association without John and George putting it together. I just kind of came in, and I was lucky that as we said, the social media kind of took off. So as I mentioned, when I took over, I think we had less than 40 people on our Facebook page. And while I was waiting for this call, I looked at our Facebook page, and we're up to over 5.2 thousand people on our Facebook page, and we have close to 4,000 streaks that we have certified through the years. So it's just really has taken off. I've been also benefited because we hired somebody to update our website, and when we did that, that really attracted a lot of people. It made it a lot easier. When John did it, and when I first did it, people would mail us their application to get in.
Yeah, I remember that.
You have to type it in. Yes. Yeah, I looked at you. You joined pretty quick, 2004.
Oh, it was?
That's when I have you joining. You said you had been running about a year when that happened. Yeah,
I remember because we didn't get a computer until, so my streak started September 2002. We didn't, we were only a year into having a computer at home, basically. And that's when, I was about over a year into the run streak, and I'm like, I wonder if, anybody else has this run streak. So that's when I was like, oh yeah, there's this thing called Google. That was relatively new.
I know, yes.
I feel like I'm talking like I'm so old.
If they're going to make it that Google company.
Yeah. And that's when I Googled longest run streak or something. And that's when I stumbled across the association. And I'm like, I felt like less insane, that I was running every day. And that's when I because my dad originally told me not to run every day and forbid me from running on our country roads that are from our house. And, but then it's funny because you also met my dad 3 years later. He started his own streak, and he's over 15 years.
When I was pulling up your files, I had a whole family. I had your uncle,
in
it, your dad, you, I don't know, like 3 or 4. Oh, your husband's in it too.
Yeah, well, yeah, ex-husband. We're still friends, but yeah, he was at 5 years, and then ended his streak the day before emergency brain surgery.
Right. Yes, he wrote to us about that.
Yep.
Yeah, we have that.
And then my brother did the 1 year. So yeah, I was talking with John on Monday, and he remembered my dad contacting him, and we're trying to get the world record for the most family members.
Well, I think some other families, there's some family in Minnesota that has all their kids involved in that too. So
that's good. Well, and I like how, the run streak, it's not really, it's not at all about competition whatsoever. It's like, I started in 2002, it's not like I'm racing to get the person ahead of me. It's like, every day we're just out there running.
It's not ahead of you.
Yeah.
Though I think are you in the top 10 of women?
I'm number 11.
So you're close out there.
Yeah, but it's not like I'm waiting for someone to fall off either. It's just, you know what I mean?
Well, that's true.
Yeah, it's just, I know. And when I was talking to Mark Covert, we talked about this. It's not like, I'm setting a goal to run the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years of my life. It's like, I said, if I reach the age of 60, hopefully I'll get to to, I'll get old and be alive, and if that's the case, I'll probably still be running.
Yeah, well, good for you.
Yeah.
The Streak Association, you mentioned long streaks. We have 3 big occasions coming up. We have 2 guys in 2021 who will hit 50 years, Steve DeBoer in June and Alex Galbraith in December. Both of them hit 50. Wow. And Ron Hill has the longest running streak in the world, but he retired his. So, believe it or not, John Sutherland from California, he will tie Ron Hill on July 3rd. And if all goes well on the 4th of July, the American will pass the British top streak runner in the world. So,
nice.
Kind of ironic that it's going to happen on the 4th of July.
That's true.
That is going on. So we have a lot of big occasions. I just told Steve DeBoer he's going to have something going on in Minnesota, so I'm going to be there.
Nice.
Be there for his anniversary. Although we had a little dispute because he believes that you should celebrate on the anniversary. So he started his streak on June 7th, 1971. So he's having his party on June 7th. I'm like, no, Steve, you should have it on June 6th.
Yeah.
He was not buying that. And John Sutherland was the same way. He celebrates on the start of the next year.
And that's actually what I do. Not like we need to have a disagreement here. But
okay. All right.
Well, what do you do when you celebrate? You just go out and run, really. But I see it as...
celebrate the start of a new year.
Yeah. So but I didn't really understand that. I was probably 10 years or whatever in. I'm like, oh, technically your year ends before your anniversary date. So I'm like, whatever, I'm just running. So it's, but yeah, I've kind of, I've went through the years of my streak and, because everybody, you go by the new year, the 2020, 2021, but I just, in my life, I kind of see my year as like my streak year and what's happened, what's changed over life. And so I tell, I'm in my 19th year of running instead of saying, 18 plus years. I don't know. It's just some of these quirks.
We do. We have these quirks, and there is kind of like a dispute on when we should celebrate our anniversaries. But I am of the school that you should start. I look at it this way. If you started your streak on January 1st, you would get your first day on January 1st. If you got married on January 1st, you wouldn't be married a day until January 2nd. So that's why you count different for a streak anniversary as opposed to a wedding anniversary, because you're starting on the day. So you do 365 days on December 31st.
Yeah.
So that's the logic behind it. I don't know if that makes sense to your listeners out there, but that's my thinking on it.
Yeah, and we've had a friend that, decided to do a year streak, and he did exactly 365 days, and then he was done.
Well, believe it or not, there's quite a few people on our list that, they want to make the goal that they run 365, or if it's a leap year, 366, and that is a popular day to end the streak. Most people, however, it's an injury. We do have people that get off on like 500 days or 2,000 days or a particular number of years, but most people, it's an odd number that their streak stopped. And believe it or not, a lot of those people start again. People whose streak ended for whatever reason, because they've been in that habit, they just want to continue with the new streak.
And that's what people have asked me over the years. Well, what would happen, if you missed a day? And my answer has always been, I'll just run the next day. It's not about losing out.
Try a little, Eliza, I think, if our streak ended.
Well, exactly. But there's still, those nights they wake up in the middle of the night and make sure, okay, I did my run, okay. But so and then the way we ended John Strumsky's interview on Monday, he was not hesitant, but he was talking about what is the future of the Run Streak Association. So he was saying worst case scenario, some running historian takes over the list or whatever. And I assured him that I think especially, what you've done as the president now, and how much interest there's been over the years, like you said, with social media. And I kind of just see it as the beginning of this association, and there's a lot more future ahead of it. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned history, because that's my day job. I am a college history professor, so that's kind of the way I looked at it when John said he wanted to retire. I just thought this would be, important to keep this thing going from a historical point of view. So hopefully we'll get somebody new to take it over. It's kind of running itself now. I still have to approve new streaks coming in, and as I said, I hold up streaks that are from the 20th century just to do a little vetting on them. I do approve people for our Facebook page and things like that, but it kind of runs itself. So, hopefully someday someone will take it over from me, which I'm sure will happen. I don't know when, but someday.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's more and more people will be inspired, and it'll continue to just be out there. I think it's obviously I'm a big part of it, and I just see it as, having that practice of something positive in your life, even if it's just a mile, committing to that one habit, that one ritual.
Absolutely.
So,
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, exactly. So I think more and more people will be inspired to get healthier, and mind, body, and spirit. So it's that's what running is, I think, at the end of the day.
It is. Yeah, I definitely think it's, it's something that's been important to me, and I'm grateful to have started this habit that I started in my 20s and keep on. I'm in my 60s now, and I still look forward to getting out there every day.
And does your wife also have a streak?
She does. Yeah. Her name's Diane, and her streak, she had two streaks. Well, she's got one going, but her first streak lasted 5 years, a little over 5.5 years, and she started a new streak, and that is in the 600s now.
Okay, nice. Streak. Yeah. And then do you guys run together often or not?
We do, yeah. We ran together this morning. A new semester starting. I'm teaching remotely, so I'm at home. Yeah. But I still have to kind of get up earlier on days that I teach. So we got up, and at 6 this morning, we went out there and did 3 miles together. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always been a lone runner. I'd like to run with my dog, but I know it's nice to have that time with your wife, I'm sure, and then you move on with your day and see each other later. Or I guess you're home, so you see each other all the time.
We do. We have two kind of routines. We run in the morning, and then after dinner we take a little walk.
Nice.
Unless it's raining, but we're usually out there no matter what, walking.
Yeah, and especially in the East Coast these days, gets a little questionable.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for your 2000. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you want to say about this association or anything?
No, I think you asked great questions.
Oh, thanks.
So just when you finish, and for any of these people, if you want to send me your blog, I would put it in our newsletter. I put in the one from Raven. I think your first one maybe, or your dad.
Oh yeah, my dad, and then the Raven, and then Mark Covert. I interviewed. I was excited.
Even know if I saw Mark Covert.
Okay.
I don't know if I was copied on that, but anytime you do, just let me know, and I'll make sure that it shows up in our newsletter. We have what we have now an online page, so I have all the links where people can just go link it to them and go to your page or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I started. You probably saw on the Facebook because there was a bunch of women asking questions, about running a pregnancy. And, I was kind of talking with them. And then I'm like, why isn't there a Facebook group even for women streak runners? So that's when I created that Facebook group. And you should, sorry you can't join, but you should see how appreciative all these women are for having this kind of designated, in some ways, support group or community of streak runners. So that's been exciting too.
I think that's the whole idea with our group. I mean, we started off as a running group, but, we went into streak running. That became part of it, so you're just kind of, there's a Swedish streak running group. I think there's even one from Denmark. And so we kind of branched out through the years.
Yeah.
But we still have that main page
Yep.
that people want to post. We always look forward to their post on Streak Runners International.
Nice, yeah. Cool, Mark. Well, thank you for your time today.
Yeah.
And
thank you, Eliza. Maybe we'll see you at Raven's 50th.
Well, wait, when is that? This.
He just hit year 46, so we were at the 45th together.
Okay.
So when would it be? December 31st, 2024? Maybe?
Okay. If I tell my dad this, he'll put it on his calendar. So we'll
tell your dad. It was great meeting your dad too.
Yeah. Well, probably that's a good goal. Hopefully, all this pandemic whatnot will be resolved by then, and we can all celebrate. So sounds like a plan.
Let's hope so. And you should go if you get a chance. Go to see Steve DeBoer in June because he's going to have a lot of street runners there.
Cool. Yeah. Sounds like a good. Nice. Okay. Well, great to.
Thanks, Eliza.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark, and great to connect. And tell Diane hello, and we'll be in touch.
Okay. Thanks, Eliza. Keep care.
Thanks. Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you for joining the Daily Run with Za, and hope you enjoyed this episode. Bye.